Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Deciding to Soar, Living Life Your Own Way. I'm Sharron Jamison, and I am so grateful that you are here. And as I say every week, I am so thankful for your time, for your presence, and for your energy. And I look forward to our time together on today. So, welcome. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, this is a podcast that is unedited, it is unscripted, it is where I come to share what I am learning in my own life, as well as what I'm learning from working with leaders and visionaries and paradigm shifters and truth tellers, because I believe our individual experiences can help us live better collectively. And so I look forward to sharing what wisdom, what perspectives, what knowledge that I am gaining that will help all of us, I pray, be better visions and better versions of ourselves so that we can all be healthier, happier, and more whole. Which leads me to my topic that I want to talk about today. And that is the topic that I want to frame as holy restlessness. Holy restlessness. And I want to talk about that because it's something that we all feel, but few of us may truly understand. And I got the idea to talk about holy restlessness because last week in my previous episode and blog, I talked about this concept called a rupture. And ruptures is that sacred breaking that happens in our souls. Sometimes it happens gradually, sometimes it happens abruptly, but it's this feeling in our lives that something has to shift. It is a way of our soul saying that something needs to move, something needs to leave, something needs to grow. And I received so many questions about rupture, and I received so many reflections and stories and heartfelt questions from so many of you that I thought I would try to address those topics in greater detail and to share what I understand about rupture as I understand it today in this season of my own becoming, with hopes that we all can look at our lives and identify the signs and the symptoms when we are being called to a new level, a new season, and a new chapter. So, first, thanks so much for reaching out to me. Thanks so much for trusting me with your truth. Thanks so much for trusting me with your vulnerability and confidentiality. And I look forward to our conversation that we will have together today. So, let's kind of talk about restlessness because restlessness, I believe, is holy. And restlessness is something that we all will experience. We feel it when our jobs start to drain us instead of developing us. We feel restlessness when our relationships start to plateau or when our dreams start to whisper again that we need to look deeper in our lives to rekindle our passions. We feel restlessness when we sense that our communities are choosing comfort over courage. We feel and see restlessness in our schools, our sanctuaries, our politics, even in our parenting. We see and sense it in the widening gaps between racial groups, in that silence that replaces honesty, and when harsh words are hurled at those who dare to be different or who dare to be authentic. And restlessness shows up when it can no longer be contained, because restlessness shows up when what is can no longer contain what wants to be. And it is the soul's way of signaling that expansion is overdue, that your growth no longer fits inside your current container, maybe your current community, your current job, your current faith tradition, your current relationship. And everyone feels this holy restlessness differently, right? Even though we all experience it differently. And for me, every time I delay making a change, I feel a quiet stirring in my soul that lets me know something is starting to shift, right? And it's interesting to people who know me well, they tell me that they can feel when I'm starting to be restless because to them, that restlessness or that stirring in my soul looks like irritation or frustration. My close friends tell me that when it looks like that I'm about to move or to grow or to pivot, that they can tell because I start complaining that I start to isolate, I start to pull back from people, I start to cry, I start going to the gym by myself. And what I start to understand about myself is when I start to feel this holy restlessness, when I feel called into something new, many times it's my spirit pulling me away because it's searching for language. It's like my body is wrestling with this new direction, this new desire, and my heart is bracing for this new transformation. And so, even when my mind hasn't caught up, my soul knows and it starts to search and resist. And when that happens, I know that the rupture has already begun. And this year, I felt those feelings in every aspect of my life spiritually, emotionally, professionally, personally, financially. And while it has been uncomfortable, it has been uncomfortable. I have learned to embrace restlessness because I know that it's not something to fear, it's something to honor, right? It's something to honor. Now, I am going to ask you to think about how do you know when you start to feel this holy restlessness? Do you feel edgy? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel teary? Do you feel like you want to pull away? Do you feel like you want to experience adventure? We all experience this restlessness differently. And as I wrestle with my own restlessness, I started to notice a rhythm or a sacred pattern that moved me from discomfort to discovery, from friction to freedom, right? And I call this process the 5 R's of holy rebellion, right? Because holy rebellion starts with restlessness. And these 5 steps I want to share with you. And first, I want to say that these 5 steps are not rigid, they are really sacred rhythms. They are divine invitations that guide us toward alignment and enlightenment. And each rhythm or each shift or each step reveals how we should evolve or heal and rise. So, as I am sharing the 5 steps, I pray that you listen and locate yourself and identify where are you in this rhythm, or where step or what shift most resonates with you as you are thinking about your own journey. Because I am sure in some place in your life, you are experiencing this holy restlessness and you are experiencing your own holy rebellion. So, the first step, like I said, is restlessness. And I like to say that restlessness is the divine disturbance. It is the divine disturbance. It is the first knock on the door of your destiny. Just think about that. I like to say that restlessness is the shaking that comes before the waking, right? It's the rumble that says, you stayed here too long and it's time to go. And this restlessness, like I said, wakes you up from the slumber of routine or the invisible cage of the status quo. And it encourages you to start gathering your lessons, start gathering your losses, start gathering your receipts and your resilience. It's this place where you start looking at yourself differently. And restlessness is this whisper that says there's more in you, there's more to you, there's more for you, but you can't carry it and you can't have it if you stay here, right? So restlessness is holy because it refuses to let you confuse safety with purpose. Restlessness absolutely forbids you to settle in the familiar. It requires that you move from stagnation and conformity so that you can step into your calling, your purpose, and do what you have been called to do. So, restlessness is the divine disturbance. The second step of this holy rebellion is what I like to call reckoning. And reckoning is a sacred confrontation. And reckoning arrives when truth sits you down and says, we need to talk, right? It's when truth sits you down and asks you to tell yourself the truth about who you are, what you need, what you desire, and what you're made of. It's when the fog clears and you can no longer hide from yourself behind the walls of busyness or blame. Is when you can no longer hide behind excuses. Is when you have to start facing what you have been pretending not to see. It's when you have to face when and how you're compromising. It's when you have to face when and how you're being silent and being complicit in your own self demise, in your own self destruction. It's when you have to confront your own patterns and behaviors and habits that are keeping you stuck and small. And this reckoning, this sacred confrontation, is not here to shame you. That's the blessing. It is here to sharpen you. And reckoning is that moment when your excuses expire and your honesty begins. Because reckoning doesn't come to ruin you, it comes to realign you. Just think about that. Reckoning, this confrontation, this sacred confrontation, doesn't come to ruin you, it comes to realign you. And it doesn't come to shame you, it comes to sharpen you so that you can see what you need to see and no longer hide behind what the world may have told you you should be or what you have allowed yourself to be, right? So, restlessness is the divine disturbance, reckoning is this sacred confrontation. The third step of this holy rebellion is the rupture. And I talked about rupture last week. And rupture is, as I mentioned, that necessary breaking. And ruptures happen when you can't go back to pretending. It's not chaos, it's clarity. It's the divine demolition that clears space for truth. And as I said last week, rupture doesn't destroy you, it delivers you. It's the spirit telling you, our God telling you, let go, let God. And rupture is never about rebellion against God. Now, I just want to say that because I know that people who have been brought in up in some faith traditions try to make us feel that rupture or that breaking is rebellion against God. But rupture is rebellion against what keeps you from God. So I want to say that again. A rupture is not rebellion against God. It's rebellion against what keeps you from God. So rupture is a necessary breaking. The fourth step in this holy rebellion is rebuild and repair, which I like to call the holy reordering, right? Because after the breaking comes the building, and repair is tender work. It's a blend of humility and hope and patience. It's when you sort through what was and you only keep what aligns with who you are becoming. This is like a moment in your life where the wisdom meets the work and where faith meets follow through. And what's so powerful about this holy reordering is that you rebuild not from fear, but from freedom. You build not from what's broken, but from what's been blessed. And repair is where the sacred becomes sustainable, right? This is where you have to do the work. This is where you have to pull up your sleeves and make changes and choices that help you rebuild or repair your life. And the fifth step of this holy rebellion is rest, which I like to say is the sacred integration, right? And rest is not about retreat, it's about restoration. It is the breath between the battles and the stillness after the storm. Because if you think about life, there's battles, a storm, and rest. There's a rhythm, and it's where you integrate the healing, the lessons, and the liberation. And rest is how rebellion becomes regeneration instead of exhaustion. I want to say that again. Rest is when and how rebellion becomes regeneration instead of exhaustion because you start living differently. You start thinking differently. You start moving differently, and you will not allow yourself to be exhausted by paradigms and conditioning and opinions that drain and deplete your soul, right? So when you look back and when you see how each stage kind of flows into the next, just think restlessness invites reckoning. Reckoning leads to rupture. Rupture calls for repair and rebuild, and repair ushers us into rest. And again, these aren't one time events, these are sacred movements. They are sacred rhythms of rebirth that repeat as life calls us higher and how as life calls us broader. And every sacred rebellion, and we will go through many of them. And sometimes we're going through multiple rebellions in different aspects of our lives. They begin with a whisper. Some build through reckoning. Some blossom in restoration. Some happen when there's been a loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of a perspective, loss of hope. And when you trust that rhythm of those changes, you will understand that restlessness no longer frightens you. Because I believe when we become restless, it should help us focus. It should help us get alert. If we can sense that something is stirring, that we're frustrated and irritable and short tempered or teary, something that is happening within us, we know that something is trying to be birthed through us. So now that I've walked through the 5 R's of holy rebellion, I invite you to reflect and ask yourself, where do you find yourself now? Now, are you in a restlessness of awakening? Are you in the reckoning of truth telling? Are in a stage of your life there's a rupture of release, release of relationships, release of jobs? Are you in the repair of rebuilding a life, or rebuilding a relationship, or rebuilding a career that aligns with your passion and how you're wired? Or are you the rest of renewal, right? So I invite you to listen to your life, pay attention to what's shaking and stirring and stretching you, because again, restlessness is not punishment. Restlessness is permission, it's grace disguised as discomfort, calling you toward your next becoming. So I want to leave you with this. Sometimes the soul stirs before the body moves. Sometimes the spirit starts whispering long before we are ready to listen. And those stirrings are not accidents, they are invitations to evolve. So may your restlessness become revelation. May your reckoning become release. May your ruptures lead to repair. And may your rest remind you that divine rebellion is not defiance, it's devotion to your truth. And if this blessing resonates with you, and if this message resonates with you, please go back and listen to Your Enough is Holy. And maybe you will hear that message differently now that you realize that your heart has shifted. So until next time, remember you were never created to live stuck, silence, or small. You were created to soar and to be higher, happier, wiser, freer, and whole because you can decide to soar and live life your own way. Because I still believe you can dare to soar higher because the best is still yet to come. So thanks so much for spending time with me today. Please share this episode. Please subscribe to my newsletter where I go into more in depth about these subjects, but also subscribe to my newsletter because I sometimes have free sessions and I would love for you to join us on a Zoom call in the community so that you can share and be supported on your own journey called life. So, again, thanks so much for spending time with me. Share, subscribe, and review. And thanks so much for being on this journey with me. Blessings.